Hello guys, welcome or welcome back to a new tutorial. So if you missed the last tutorial where I drafted this dress, please check it out. I'm going to leave a link to that video on the description bar below, so you can go check that out. So on this video I'm going to be showing you guys how to sew the dress. So let's get right into the video. So where we left off on the last video was me showing you guys the allowances I left out while cutting everything, and showing you guys the fact that I ironed down my ST on on all the fabrics. So we are going to go ahead to start sewing this now. Like I said earlier, if you missed the last one, go and check it out. It is linked down below. So let's get right into the video. So before we start sewing, this was the original design I drafted out. So this is the lace. I just tried to illustrate the lace to see how it would look on the design before going ahead to start sewing. And I was not okay with the sleeve because it was too plain and a kind of boring, so I just went ahead to go with the funnel sleeve. I think that's what they call it. So I just decided to do that, and I started working on the dress. So if you'd like me to make a tutorial on how I made the sleeves, please let me know in the comment section and I will do well to post that video as well. So this is what it was looking like after I was done. I just redrafted it and made I just added the funnel sleeve, so it's not too simple. So this is what it's looking like. Let's get right into the sewing aspect. So here you can see that I went ahead to iron gum stay on my lining piece, and I went ahead to iron wording on the main piece of the fabric, and I worked with a Duchess fabric. So this is what it's looking like. I would have preferred working with crepe, but at the time I went to the market I could not find any crepe to match the fabric that I needed, so I just went ahead to work with Duchess because I was short of time. So here I'm just cutting out the part I need for my breast pad. So I'm just cutting this out, and you can see at the midpoint I'm still going to trim that off, so when we are adding our yoke, it does not bulge and does not disturb us at that part. So I'm just going to cut for the sides as well. I'm just going to cut them out. So after cutting them out, I went ahead to stitch them down to the fabric, because this is the particular kind that you could not iron on them, so I just went ahead to stitch them down. So we're just going to be joining this by 1/2 inch. So we're just going to sew from the bottom part all the way up, and you can see that the center piece doesn't have the normal shape you would normally have when you're drafting your bustier. So what we are going to do is, when we are joining this, when you're sewing, you just have to bend it all the way. You can see the way I am showing you. So that's how we are going to be sewing this. So I'm just taking this to the machine and let's just sew that. So after I was done sewing, I'm just pushing it out to show you what it looks like. So this is what it's looking like. I'm just going to go ahead to join this other side as well. So after joining that, this is what our cup is looking like. I went ahead to give everything a good press, and I notched the inside as well. So this is what we have. Next, I'm just going to go ahead to attach our yoke, and you can see that I already joined the yoke, and I cut out 2 of these and I just joined them together. So we are now going to attach this to the top part. So what we are going to do is, we're just going to pin this down, but before we pin this down, we are going to notch at the center part of our yoke, as I'm doing right now. And after that, I'm still going to go ahead to create a notch at the center part of our bodies as well. So this is going to help enable you attach your yoke very easily. So now I'm just placing this at the midpoints, making sure they're at the midpoints facing each other. I hope you understand. So next I'm just going to pin this down, and after I'm done pinning this down, I'm just going to sew. When I'm done sewing this part, I'm as well going to pin down the other parts to sew. So let's sew this. So after we're done sewing down the first part, this is what it's looking like. Now I'm just going to bend this to the other side to enable me pin down the other part of our bodies. So when we are done pinning that part down, we're just going to sew. So guys, after pinning this down, I'm just going to sew from this point all the way to the midpoint by 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to sew this now. So after we're done sewing the yoke, this is what it's looking like at the front and at the back. So this is what it's looking like. Next, we're just going to bring in our lining piece. We just actually did the same thing we did for the main piece to the lining piece. So now I just want to add my regling boning, and this is totally optional. And I'm just going to attach this straight down. It's not going to be a bust caging technique, but rather I'm just going to sew it straight down, just to create a bit of firmness when I snatch my waist. And what you have to take note of is we are going to actually be cutting off this part slanted down, so we are not going to sew our bonings all the way down. We are going to end this where our half length stops, but 1/2 inch above that. So if your half length is 17, you're going to be doing 16.5, because you're also going to join this and you do not want to join it with your boning. So we're just going to sew that, and this is what it's looking like after I was done sewing it. Next, I'm just going to attach this to our main fabric piece, and this is how I'm going to go about it. I'm just going to hold it down together, and I'm going to create a notch at the lining piece as well. So this is going to help ease your sewing and make sure you don't stress yourself over this. So I'm just going to hold this down and sew, making sure that you do not sew on your yoke part, because you can see that it's bent in a way. So you want to make sure while you're sewing, you're pushing it down to make sure you're not sewing on your yoke part. So we're going to sew that on both sides and join everything together. So this is what it's looking like. I went ahead to give it a good press when I was done. This is the result. So next we are going to go ahead to cut out our asymmetrical waistline. So you can do this easily from your underbust. You just have to take note of what you took at your half length. So here I'm just placing my tip and I'm marking 17.5 inches, as you can see. So I'm just going to mark this all the way, and then when I'm done marking this out, I'm just going to, from this point here, slant it all the way downwards. So you can see that I'm marking the same thing at that point, so I'm just going to slant it all the way down. So we are doing this because our waistline is going downwards towards the right hand side, so I'm just marking it from the left part all the way down to the right hand side. You can do this on the left hand side or the right hand side, it depends on what you're trying to achieve. So you can see this is what it's looking like after I was done carving that out. You can see the chalk line on the dress. So what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to cut this out. After cutting our asymmetrical waistline, this is what we have. Now we're just going to transfer what we have to our skirt part. So I'm just bringing in the skirt piece and I'm just going to lay this down and place our top part on top, so we are going to be able to cut out the waistline for the skirt part as well. So you can see now that I just placed this on the skirt part and everything is equal. The waist measurement for the top part and the down part is equal, so you need to take note of that as well. So I just placed this down, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead to just cut what we have there. So we are going to be cutting out the excess from the skirt part. So now I'm just going to go ahead to cut this off. After cutting that out, we are going to go ahead to join the top piece and the skirt piece together. So we're just going to fold this up like so and join everything together. So when we go ahead to sew that and come back, you should have something like this. You can see what it's looking like after I went ahead to join the top piece and the bottom piece together. So next we are going to keep this aside and work on our back piece. So for the back piece, you can see this is what it's looking like. I went ahead to iron gum stay to the lining piece. So I went ahead to stick the lace to our bridal lining as well. You can also sew this all the way around depending on the method or technique you are used to. So this is what it is looking like. So what we are going to do next is we are just going to join everything together. So I'm just going to take one piece of our back and I'm going to place them together. As you can see, I'm just placing them together, and now I'm just going to place them together right sides facing each other. We are going to sew by 1/2 inch, and I'm going to do the same thing for the rest of them to just sew them. So after I was done, this is what it's looking like. I went ahead to give everything a good press. I did the same thing for the lining piece as well. So here I'm just bringing in our yoke. So this is what our yoke is looking like, and I went ahead to just cut it out 4 pieces, 2 for the lining and 2 for the main piece, and I sewed them together, leaving 1/2 inch allowance at the top and at the bottom. So this is what it's looking like. Now we're just going to attach this to our bodies. So I'm just placing them together. So you can see this point here. I just marked that out to show where our yoke is going to start from, because the other left, the allowance we have left there is for our zipper allowance. So our yoke is not supposed to go towards that part. So I just left that mark here, and I'm just pinning this down all the way up. And when I'm done pinning this down, we're just going to sew by 1/2 inch all the way up. So I'm just going to sew that for the 2. And after I was done sewing, this is what we have. Next up, I'm just bringing in our lining pieces, and I'm just placing them right sides facing each other with our main bodies, and I'm just going to close up the sides, and we're just going to sew, taking note of our yoke not to sew on the yoke. So we're just going to hold that down and sew. So this is what it's looking like after we're done. I just went ahead to notch the edges, and now we're just going to turn this to the right side. This is what it's looking like after we're done flipping it over to the right side. Next, we are going to bring in our skirt piece and just fix this to our upper bodies. So now we are going to bring in the skirt piece, and you can see that when I brought the skirt piece and I placed it at the bottom part, you can see that the measurements and everything are aligning. So now we're just going to fix our zipper at the back after we're done joining the top part and the bottom parts together. So I went ahead to mark out our zipper allowance here, as you can see. So from this point here, our zipper is going to start from here all the way to the top, from this point all the way to the top, and we're going to stitch from there all the way to the bottom part. So I already went ahead to stitch that part down. So what we are going to do next is we are just going to fix in our zip. So we are going to do that and come back. So this is what the back is looking like after we're done fixing our zip. So after this, we're just going to keep this aside and work on our inner corset. So this is the pieces we cut for our inbuilt corset part, and I cut out 4 pieces of this. 2 will be for the main piece and 2 for the lining piece, and I went ahead to iron gum stay to the lining pieces and interfacing on the main fabric pieces. So we are just going to place them down like so and place them right sides facing each other. So this is what it's looking like. Now I'm just going to go ahead to sew the sides like so and sew it all the way around, leaving an opening at the bottom part so we can turn everything out. This is what it's looking like. I went ahead to give it a good press, and you can see that the bottom part is open. Next, we are going to create boning channels. We are going to just sew them down on both sides, and after we're done sewing them down here, I'm going to fix in the bonings. So this is what it's looking like after I was done sewing in our boning channels. This is what we have so far. Next, we are just going to start imputing our boning So I'm just going to start fixing in the boning. And after we're done fixing in the boning, you can see that as I put in the boning, the boning makes our dress to like curve out, and we do not want that. So what we are going to do is we are going to iron it down. So you can see that this is what it's looking like after we are done fixing the boning. So this is what we have after we are done giving it a good press. You can see that it's laying down flat. I went ahead to cut out fabric strips to seal off the bottom part where we had open. So we are just going to sew this down and fold it in like so, and then give it a top stitch. So we are just going to go ahead to do that for the both piece. So this is what it's looking like after I was done sewing it down. Next, what we are going to do is you're just going to fold this towards the upper part and then top stitch on it. You're just going to fold this very well and top stitch on it. When you're done with that, you should have something like this. You can see this is what this part is looking like. So I'm just going to go ahead to finish up the second part. We're going to set this aside and start working on our dress. So now this is the zipper part. I went ahead to place our front piece together, and what we are going to do next is we're just going to join the shoulders together, and I'm just going to hold everything together and join our shoulders together the way you would normally do that. So we're just going to sew by 1/2 inch on the both shoulders, and then after that you should have something like this. So this is what the shoulders are looking like when we're done fixing the shoulder. Next, what we are going to do is we're just going to go ahead to join the sides, and you can see that I already went ahead to mark this out. When you're marking this out, please take note that you've already taken out 1 inch from the front and 1 inch at the back of your waist measurement. So if your waist measurement is 15 inches at the front, now what you have is 14 inch at the front and 14 inches at the back. So please take note of that when joining your dress. So when you snatch your inbuilt corset, you can be able to zip this up. So we know now that we are not working with our original waist measurement. We have taken out 1 inches from the waist, but the bust and the other part of your body measurement remains the same. So that is that for the waist measurement. We are just going to go ahead now to join the both sides together. So when we are done joining the both sides, we are just going to fix in our inbuilt corset. So guys, this is what it's looking like after we're done joining the sides. Now I'm just going to bring in our panels. So this is what they are looking like, and I'm just going to place them on both sides and pin it down. So you can see that I went down by 1 inch the way I explained while we were drafting this. I went down from the armhole by 1 inch. So this is what it's looking like. I'm going to go ahead to just pin this down, and after I'm done pinning them down, I am going to sew and attach them to the dress. And I'm pinning this to the back piece alone, not on the both piece, just on the back piece where we have our zipper. So I'm just going to pin this down, and after we're done, this is what it's looking like. We are now just going to sew. You can either sew the 3 pieces together, or you can just sew it to your back piece, whichever way you are comfortable with. So I'm just going to go ahead to just sew on the panels we placed in. When we're done sewing that, I'm just going to take this to the market to fix in my eyelets on this side so we can be able to loop the corset. So I'm just going to take that to the market to fix it, and then I'm going to come back to show you guys the final results. So guys, this is the final results. This is what the dress is looking like. If you'd like me to make a video on how I made the sleeves, please let me know in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed watching this video and you found it helpful, please do not forget to like, subscribe if you're not yet subscribed already, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye guys.